So in the previous videos, we have seen about how to read the sources mentioned in the YAML file. So in the previous video, we had considered the CSV file as one of the source mentions in the properties of YAML file and with some certain kind of path resource. And we have seen that one how we can read the data out of this YAML file. So now in this video, we are going to see how we can read the tables from the sources mentioned in the YAML file, that is SQL Server. Okay. So there may be different databases out there. Some may be some kind of different database may be mentioned in this YAML file. So we need to define a function so that our function going to read the tables, whatever the tables mentioned in the YAML file, and do the transformations according to that. Okay. So previously we did the same. With the help of with function, we open the YAML file, and what about this dot and all explained neatly in the on the previous video. Okay, so we will get the property. I mean, we will read the YAML file like this. We open file pod, read, and as a file object consider as a f. Okay, and YAML dot save. So now let's define the function to read the SQL Server data. Okay, data. So SQL Server. Right? Here we need to pass the parameters. One is nothing but the Spark and another one is nothing but the table name. We are going to pass the table name, and from the table name, the data frame has to be created. Okay. Now keep everything in try and catch block. Except exception as key. Copy the statement. Right. So up to here the same thing. We need to read the YAML file, and we need to store it in a variable called as a properties. Okay. So let me show you the properties. What would be the properties looks like? Let's bring the just print the properties. Just we will see what would be the what is the data inside the properties. Either it's a kind of dictionary or it stores like a list, or for that one only we are just printing the properties. Now go to the driver file and call that function like in just tables. Let's store it in a variable and read data from the SQL Server. Spark stores the Spark object variable. And here table name I am passing a dummy variable just for printing the properties. Let's say account. Let's run this node, run this file. Meanwhile, I forgot to add one thing. So in the resources folder, we need to add the jar file. Okay, this is the jar file. I reckon we have the playlist called implemented Pyspark. There we shown how to download the jar file and how to use that one. Okay. So let's go to create Spark object file, and we need to add one configuration for the JDBC driver. That is nothing but this one. Spark.driver.x.Pyspark, and we need to give the path for the JDBC so that it is going to follow the path like that. C users, Lenovo, Python projects, data validation YAML, and straight away it is go to Python. Under the Python, it will come to the resource and it's going to take this jar file. Okay. You may use PyODBC also there to connect to the SQL server. Okay, anything you can do. So it is of dictionary kind of stuff. We got the SQL server, and this is the key. SQL server is the key, and inside the key we have the values, and the values is also a dictionary. And inside of values again you have the key value pair of structures which can store the list. Okay, so entirely a giant dictionary this is. Now in the previous one for the CSV file, we got the file path, header, input schema and all. So in the same way we are going to take the things like DB name. Okay, DB name equal to properties, properties. Instead of CSV source, we are going to take the SQL server. Okay. And inside the SQL server, we need to get the DB. Next, once after getting the DB name, we need to get the tables as well. Okay. Let's stay tables, tables equal properties of SQL server, tables. Next thing we need to get the host name, port name, and username and password. Generally, in the projects, we will follow the Unity catalog process in the database notebook. Currently, we have the community edition as of now. So in the community edition, we cannot show the Unity catalog process. Okay. So Unity catalog is nothing but we are going to give the restrictions to a couple of users and couple of developers, like the so and so developer can only access so and so notebooks and so and so data. So apart from the developers, apart from the testers inside the organization, so outside the people from the organization, let us say we need to develop a website or any kind of site for the client so that he can see the reports. Okay. For that process, we need to develop a Unity catalog so that whoever the client, they can access only the final data, not the entire code what we written like that. Some kind of security kind of development going to be used in the real time. That is nothing but with the help of Unity catalog, especially we are going with the database. Okay. Generally, they don't show these kind of links like username, password to the outside world. They are going to secure those things. So for this is the practice. That's why I'm showing these things. So once we got the table name, we need to get the post name. Host name. Just give me a minute. Sorry for inconvenience. Let's get the hosting properties. Okay. And we need to copy this. Next thing, we need to take the port number as well. Next one, we need to get the username. And password as well. Let's copy this variable name. For password, it's stored as a period. Okay. So fine. And the next thing, we need to do the check. The check is nothing but if we pause the other table names, whatever, rather than mention in the YAML file, suppose the factory seller sales are there. If sometimes if we mention any table name like which is not mentioned in the YAML file, then we should raise the value error. Let's say defined tables. Okay. Properties dot. So this is the dictionary, right? In a dictionary, we need to get the key or a value. We are going to use the get method. Right? Get SQL server. Okay. SQL server dot. Let me print the defined tables. Okay. Then you will understand. I guess it is not required as of now. Let me comment this one. Fine. Let's go to driver or else run here. We got the DB name. Okay, this is the value for the key called as SQL server. Okay. Now let's add the another get method to get the table names. Okay. Let's print this one. Meanwhile, we can write down other statements. So if the table name is the parameter what we pass for the function, not in defined tables, then we need to raise a value error. Okay, by stating that table name not defined in the YAML file. Okay, so we got the list of the tables whatever mentioned in the YAML file. If other than the table, if we mention at the time of running the function, then it is going to raise the value here. Okay. Now, so we need to give the connection. Okay. Let's add the print statement defining connection to the database. Okay. So for the JDBC, we need to have the connection like this. JDBC server, this one, connection string. Okay, JDBC SQL server, and whatever the host you are having, local host and the database name, you need to mention like this. Okay, so that this is what we are going to do now. So let me copy this one. So under the string function, we are going to keep this now. Let's say URL equal to. Let's add a string formatting. So this is the SQL server we are going to get from the, sorry, SQL server, it should be there. That's fine. And the local host is nothing but the host name. Okay, host name. And we need to add the port number as well. I think we missed the port number part. Let's define port number. Once after the port number, that's, I think it is no need as of now. In script 2, let's remove this one. Database is nothing but a DB name. Okay. DB. Then we got the connection string is. Now another thing we need is nothing but this class name. Okay. Class dot for name, or you may call it as a driver name. Let me define that one in the properties. Again, define a variable called as a properties for defining the username and password. Connect the database. Okay. Let's take the user. User is nothing but username, comma, password. Password is nothing but a PWD variable. Next one, the driver. So in the driver, copy this. Fine. So let's read the data frame. df equal to spark dot read dot jdbc. Okay. URL equal to URL. URL is nothing but a connection string, and table is nothing but table whatever we are going to pass to insert to create a data. And the properties, we need to pass the properties whatever we define here, username, password, and that. Okay. So let's return the data. Okay. Now go to driver file and copy and paste any table here. Let's call it as a dim currency. Okay. Let's run the driver. Let me check the error. SQL Server connection. Error occur while calling the JDBC. The driver could not establish the secure. Integrated service source name, maybe equal source name. Integrated security to the database. We look for the another driver. Let's add the instance to once. Fine. Let me run this driver. Yeah. So the problem would be this one, this statement as well as with my database. Actually, I updated the password and all. So that's why it is not shown an error previously. So it's the same thing. We check before the password you entered. Okay, either it would be the same whatever the password you are going to the database. Okay, otherwise it stores an error. So this is the URL, right? Fine. So that was called in a driver file, and we passed one table name called deal currency, and this is the currency table. Okay, so let me add some makeup to this code. Makeup to this code is nothing but let put everything in one under one function so that I can call that one function only in the driver. Okay, so let's define another function called read data from sources. Okay, source type. Let me add Spark session name Spark source type comma table, and table, this is the parameter I'm passing as a none value. Okay, so that if the CSV file does not consider the table, so if you don't pass it as a none, it is going to throw an error at the time of running the function. Okay, if src type equals to SQL Server, equal to CS SQL Server, then return read data from the SQL Server. Okay, and we need to pass the Spark from table name equal to the table. Okay. Elif src type equals to, let's say, CSV return read CSV sources and the spot. Else rise and variable or invalid source types. Supported source types values of CSV and SQL Server. Okay. And also let's define a display in a function as well. Way of display df underscore show equal to df dot show. Nothing but just instead of for every time dot show and just calling this function. Okay. Return df show. Now go to driver file. Let me comment these things. Okay. Let's call those functions. What is the function? Read data from sources. Okay. Read data from sources. Spark equal to Spark object. SRC type equal to, let's say, SQL Server or else CSV. For CSV. Next table no need of calling that parameter, I guess. Okay. Why? Because we already given it as an, so no need of df CSV. And let's call the display function as well. Display df CSV. Let's run the driver file. Right? We got this is the output from our CSV file. Okay. So in the same fashion, let's call the SQL servers as well. Okay. df SQL equal to read data from sources. Spark equal to Spark object. SRC type equal to SQL Server. Table equal to, let's call the table. Let's call it display df. Okay. df is clear. Now run this driver file. Yeah, fine. So we got this. This is the end of the playlist. I mean, playlist is nothing but the YAML file playlist. Okay. So we have seen how to define the YAML file and how to read that YAML file and how to read the different sources mentioned in the YAML file as well. And we have seen how to connect to the SQL server using JDBC driver and how to define one single function so that if I mention the source type, according to source type, it is going to read that particular function. Okay, this is what we have seen. Usually, like this only we will follow, but some hierarchies would be there, like we will maintain a Unity catalog. Sometimes we may use the CSV as you have seen in the previous videos in the Databricks. We use and the CSVs and how with the help of CSV we read the different file parts, right? So like that, this is one of the way how we can maintain a robust or a generic kind of framework, right? So in the next videos, we will see how we can handle the null values and how we can tackle the date format check as well. Okay. In between, we will see in the ADF. Okay, we recently we got the Azure account, and then the ADF we are going to design a pipeline so that we are going to check like if you are copying from one table and storing into another table. Let us take if your table is consists of 100 records and the target table after successful run also contain 100 records. So these kind of checks would be done with the ADF, and we will see that one in the next upcoming videos. Okay, thank you.